And crypto crashing, China's stepping up on its crackdown on Bitcoin mining as the reality of regulation certainly spooks investors. Jim, I know you were talking about Bitcoin with the Squawk Gang and here during before we came on the air.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of headwinds now to Bitcoin. And now Tom DeMark, who's been the best, saying this, it should hold.
Among all scenarios that can happen to you as a trader, one of the worst is to be stabbed by the news. No one can say that we can trade safely if we are not following the market news. Even though sometimes everything looks great, everything looks perfect, you have a very strong trend, you always have to keep in mind to always before to invest, or if you have some investment on hold, you have always to correlate it to the news in order to understand what's happening within your assets. That's not random if all the most influential traders or investment funds are on daily basis focusing themselves on what's happening on the news. It's because that's something which is crucial, and that's why also some people are going to jail because they have insider information. That's why, along this video, we are going to create a newsreader assistant in order to help us to crunch the market sentiment of a specific shares, let's say about Amazon or about Tesla, or specific pairs. Let's say you want information about the Bitcoin USD, or if you want like some information about a specific currency. The goal of this tool is going to be to help us to crunch the market sentiment of what the press is saying about this or this specific asset. But that's just going to be a basic tool that we are going to do. Like, that's not going to be something very complex, something very basic, but that's going to be something very helpful as something that you're going to be able to use on daily basis. And yeah, like along this tool, we are not going to dive too much in terms of NLP, deep learning, or AI. If you want to go on this specific subject, there is an online course that I have created with James Briggs, who is currently doing that for UBS in London. We started the same day at Deloitte, and today is working for UBS, and we have created this online course where you can dive a little bit more in depth on and answer the question, what does people have positive or negative sentiment about this or this specific asset on Reddit and Twitter. Essentially, you are going to go through AI, deep learning, and natural language processing in order to detect automatically the global sentiment of any comment on this platform. So something very deep, but that's need at least 5 hours. Yes, going back on our tools, the goal of today's video is to create a quick newsreader assistant, which is going to help us to crunch the market sentiment. Or just, for instance, if for you, the goal is just to have some news about this asset, that's something that you can get a tailored news for you, like for yourself. If that's the goal of, and it's what you are targeting, let's say you just want to news about a specific subject that you are following on daily basis, that's also a tool that can be used in this way. But on this video, we are going to use it on a real life case study. Okay, guys, now that we are talking about the goal of the tool that we are going to build, let's go back and let's have a little bit of methodology on how we are going to build this tool. And for instance, if you want to code it at the same pace, let's say if you are starting with development and coding, you should just like put a break on this video, just like put a break, pick a cup of coffee, prepare your computer, and you can just code at the same pace of me and just develop it by yourself. Also, the goal of this tool is also to give you, like, let's say an asset. Let's say you are going for an interview and you can always say, okay, I build a tool which is helping me to fetch the news and to get, I don't know, that's something, at least I remember when I was having my first interviews, after my graduation, I was always coming with prototype that I built, and that was always impressive for the interviewer. And the third point is also to have fun and to have something that you can use on daily basis. Okay, guys, let's start coding, and let's start with a little bit of data modeling. Essentially, how the data model gonna work? That's gonna work in 3 steps. The first step gonna be to select the filter that we want. The second step, within this step, we're gonna have to set up the parameters of the API. Set up API parameters. Yeah, I hope you can read me. I know I'm not writing super well, but I'm like a scientist writer, which is very bad. Yeah, so we're gonna set up the API parameters, and in a second time, we're gonna create a quick. We are going to create a function to fetch the news, and once we're gonna have created this function, the last step gonna be to create a loop to go through each keyword that we have set up and to run this function through each keyword f of x, and in order to fill our final output with all the news that we like. Here, that's the news with all the news that we want. Okay, little bit of presentation. At step 0, we are going to use Google News API. Essentially, if you go on, I'm gonna attach an article to this video, and if you go through this article, you will see essentially you have different alternatives. You have 2 alternatives. The first one is to use an existing library, let's say Twitter API, Google News API, or some other news fetching API that you can use, define filters, create an engine, and get your output. The other solution is to scrape data online. For instance, if you go on the online course, you're gonna have a little bit more inspiration if you want to build from scratch your tool. What we are going to do here, we are going to take advantage of Python by just using the Python library which are currently available in order to build this tool. Okay, let's go back on our model. What we are going to use is Google News API, and yeah, I'm not gonna go too much in depth about the let's type Google News API on Google News API up. Yes, I think that's this one. Yeah, okay, that's not the right Python API. Let me go back to the documentation. Oh, yes, it's this one. Yeah, in the documentation they is specifying every step in order to use it, and we are going to build it here like step by step. No worries, sometimes we're gonna have to go back on this documentation, but that's gonna be along the process. Okay, let's go back to our model. So the first thing that we're gonna need to do gonna be to specify the filter and set up the API, because if you go on the documentation, the first thing that require you to do is to set up the parameters that you want to pass within this API before to be able to use it. Okay, let's start now with our Newsreader assistant. Yeah, now if you want to start coding, the coding part gonna start from now, which means like you should just like prepare your Jupyter notebook, put break on the video, prepare your Jupyter notebook, and we're gonna code at the same path. Okay, we're gonna go back to the general model and how the model gonna work. The model gonna work this way: Google News API, define filters, create the engine which is going to require to go to call the function for each filters and get all our information within a data frame, and afterwards you can either export that as an Excel files or through an email that you're gonna receive on daily basis. Okay, and in order to get Google News API, the first step gonna be to call the libraries that you're gonna need. So what is nice is because you're not gonna need plenty of libraries. The only libraries that you're gonna need is Pandas, NumPy, and Google News. That's exactly what you can do. If you look at the documentation, what Google recommends, they recommend to before to start coding, to initialize it with by calling the function within a variable that you are going to call Google News, we are going to follow this step. Up, let's execute. Now we are just like, what I can call here, now we can just say initialization part is done. Up, let me type initialization is done. Okay, now that we are done with the initialization, we can go to the next step. The next step, if we go back to our rough model, gonna be to define the filters that we want. In this case, we are going to put ourselves in the skin of someone who wants to invest on the Ethereum, for instance, which is an alternative to the Bitcoin. Otherwise, if you want something more mainstream, we can just go for the Bitcoin that's quite similar. Yeah, let's go now with the Ethereum. That's gonna be a little bit easier because I already typed the code. What we're gonna do here, we're gonna first set up the keywords that we want. ETH, Ethereum, and ETH/USD. But you can set up like much more keywords that you want. Like that's an infinite list of number of keywords that you can set up. Yeah, now once you set up your keywords, you have to set up your parameters for Google News. You have multiple parameters. If you go on the API, you can set up the language, you can set up the region if you want just press from the US, if you want just press from India, if you want news in French, in Spanish, in Hindu, you have just set up the language. Even in Nepalese, you can get this type of information. So the first step gonna consist of setting up the parameters that you want within your tool. Here we are just setting up the time range. You can also set the period. Let's say you want the news for the last 7 days. Here I'm just going to set up between the 2nd of August and the 3rd of August. Don't forget about the format. The format is month, day, year. This way, because otherwise if you use another format that will not be recognized. Now once you set up your parameters, afterwards you can always change your parameters. Now once you have set up your parameters, that's gonna be fixed. You will never have to recall these parameters. Now Google News has information that he must have information just in English and within this time range. Okay. Now we can go to the next step. If we go here, like the next step is going to be to create a function in order to fetch the news, which means that there's going to be a function which is going online and pick up the news for a specific subject. Fetch news. We are going to just like create a function for one keyword, and afterwards we're going to create a loop, and that's going to go to each keyword of the list and fill for you a recap of what's happening for this specific asset. Okay, let's go back to our model. So, and everything is described within the documentation. I'm gonna make you gain some time as I already built it. The first thing that we're gonna do, we just first of all gonna create like a data frame. They also talking about it within the documentation about the different stuff that can return. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna start by creating an empty data frame where we're gonna store our data. And this data frame gonna have this column: date, time, title, article, and a link to the article. Because if you want to read further news about what this specific press article is saying about this asset, just gonna have a link and click on it. Okay. Once you have stored the news article information within a data frame, we're gonna have to gather all the data of the current Google News page to a data frame. We are going to create a function that we are going to call newsfeed. This way, to define a function that we are going to call newsfeed. Yeah. Once you have set up this function, we are going to, I'm just going to copy and paste my code, and afterwards you can just go, I'm just going to go on line by line. And what this function going to do, going to fill each one of this column. First the date, then the time, after the title, the article, and the link of it. and that's gonna fill a dictionary that we're gonna build for each keyword that we're gonna require. For instance, here is gonna be ETH, Ethereum, and ETH USD. Yeah, that's very basic. First, what you're gonna do, you're gonna fill the raw dictionary with the datetime. Second, once you're gonna have filled the dictionary with the datetime, what you're gonna do, you're gonna fill the dictionary within a variable that you're going to call title, time, article, and a link to the article. Yeah, everything is detailed here, like how you can get it. We're gonna go through it in the next step. And once you have set up, once you have filled, once you have opened this dictionary, you're gonna go through the next item of the variables that you're gonna have put through the function at the beginning. Okay, that's the function that you're gonna have to build up in order to fill this dictionary. Once you have done that, what you're gonna do, we're gonna loop over each keyword and get the news article. For instance, in this example, we are fetching the news for only one page, but you can increase the number of pages and the number of outputs. Because how the Google News API is working, the Google News API essentially is working by page. I have a page of information, and on each page, if I'm not wrong, that's like 22. Yeah, as you can see here, is like get page. There's like 22 news articles that Google News is currently fetching for you and selecting for you. And what is nice is because it's selecting by popular article, and as you may be aware, like more your article is popular and more it's gonna have a global impact on the market. More there is readers gonna be influenced by these articles, and more you're gonna have a true sentiment of what people can do afterwards. Let me know if I'm not clear enough. Yeah, if you want the Jupyter notebook associated with this video, gonna be just under this video on YouTube. You're gonna have a link where you can download directly the Jupyter notebook with a little bit more information. So what you're gonna start doing, we're gonna start by creating a data frame which is gonna contain all the keywords that we are searching. Once you're gonna have done that, what you're gonna do, we're gonna do for each keyword that's gonna search separately each keyword that you have filled within your function that you have called keyword. Here that's gonna be ETH, Ethereum, and ETH USD. What I'm doing is that for steps in range of length keyword. For instance, if you just type it length keywords, as you can see, that's gonna go through the 3 keywords that you have. Here I have 1, 2, 3 keywords. What this function gonna do, that's gonna go through each one of the keywords. Let's say if you have 4 or 5 keywords, that means that's gonna go from 1 to 5 because you have 5 keywords. If you have 2 keywords, it's gonna go from 1 to 2, or if you have just 1, it's gonna just execute this function for just 1 keyword. Okay. Then what we're gonna do, we're gonna insert that within function strings about the different step. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna ask Google News to fetch the specific strings. Okay. After that, what you're gonna do, you're gonna have to fetch the results online. And in order to fetch the results, how do you fetch the results with this API? You just have to type Google News Google News results, and the tool will try to order the results in chronological order. And what Google News gonna do, gonna go and bring you all the results about this specific topic. Okay, that's the first step. Essentially, what we are doing, we are just following the documentation. Once you got the results, the next step gonna be to define the number of pages. Here that's set up at 2. What we are going to do, for me, I believe you can just focus on one page, that's totally enough. But if you want more information about a subject, a specific subject, you can just increase the number of page. Here we are going to we want just one page, and afterward, what we're gonna do after that, we are going to do for each step in the range of the number of pages. We want to ask Google News to get the news for each step up, for each one of these steps until the total number of pages. Let's say if you want 2 pages, that's gonna go from 1 to 2. If you want 3 pages, it's gonna go from 1 to 3 pages of news. And what we want to get the Google News page and to feed our variables that we are going to feed. Which means like we are going to, because like if you look at it within here, what we are going to do, we are just going to go through this newsfeed function. And after that, we are just going to feed our data frame. At the beginning, the data frame is totally blank. And after this step, what's going to happen? We are going to feed the data frame one by one. Up, copy, paste, and we are feeding the data frame. Okay. And at the end, because what Google News is doing, Google News is storing the information in a local variable, which means that you always must clear up what you have just done, what you have just fetched just before, because otherwise, like that will not go over what you have done, and just gonna compile all the news one by one, and they're gonna be repeated. That's why you just have to clear. And once you cleared everything, what you're gonna do, you're just gonna reset the index. That's just a quick function that I found out to reset the index because I got stuck for a little while, and that's just a quick function that I recommend you to use in order to reset the index of the final result, because otherwise it's just gonna restart by 0. And what you are going to do, just like to append the data frame and resetting the index. And now if you run this function, you will see what's gonna happen. Hopefully that's gonna work. Yes, perfect. As you can see, what you have all the news that you want about the Ethereum. And what you can do here at this moment, once you fetch the news about your specific subject, let's say the Ethereum, you can just read what the press is saying about it. Let's say here, like people like Coin Speaker, which is one of the most famous blogs, is saying that a positive sentiment about the Ethereum, like the Ethereum price is shooting the $2,600 benchmark. Ethereum prints record winning strikes. And what does that mean? That means that the overall press have a positive sentiment about the Ethereum. And I guess like that's what happened 5-6 days ago, which means like people have like 13 days of bullish streaks on Ethereum USD. Like if you look at the news, roughly you can see that the news are globally positive. If you want to automate the process of detecting if news is positive or negative, you can just follow the online course and you're gonna learn how to develop it by yourself, just to detect with an AI process what people are thinking about it. But here what I want to propose you, just like a tool that you can run on daily basis, and that you can get like all the press headlines about this specific asset on which you want to invest. And that's what happened 4 to 6 days ago. And let's take a look what happened to the ETH USD in between. That's what happened 6 days ago. And let's go on 5 days. And if you look on the 5 days, like the press has a very positive sentiment about Ethereum. And as you can see, Ethereum took 25% during this period, which means that you can just like be at the forehand just by running these small tools. You can also anticipate, let's say you have like a very bad news on the market, you can also anticipate it, and in order to avoid to invest on something which is wrong, because I'm talking about personal personal memories. That's happened to me so many times to go just start investing, and that I miss the latest news about specific assets, and I'm just like losing 10 to 20% in just few hours, mainly on the crypto market, which is very volatile. And the crypto market is highly composed by a lot of individuals, and as you can see, and as you may be aware, like the what we call the ratio, individuals, the percentage of individuals individuals on the professional trader, has a lot of importance and a lot of matters on the global volatility of the market, because more you have individuals who are investing on the market, and you increase volatility, and also you increase the importance of the psychological sentiment. That's going to increase the importance of the psychological sentiment of a specific asset. Let's say if you trade on the S&P 500, the importance of the psychological sentiment of the market gonna be little bit less than on the crypto market, because on the S&P you have around 80% of professional traders in terms of volumes of money, which means that the market is much more based on fundamental analysis, even though today they have less and less importance than on the crypto market, where on the crypto market you have 80% of the funds which is brought by individuals, and these individuals gonna be much more impacted by the psychological impact than the S&P 500, and they're also gonna be much more impacted by the news. Very often, like they either following Reddit, Twitter, or the top five news press about cryptocurrencies. That's just gonna be a tool. For instance, now if you want to release it about the Bitcoin, about the BTC, you can just like type up BTC or Bitcoin, and they're gonna give you all what the press, if the price is praising or criticizing the Bitcoin. Up and up. Let's execute. Yeah, and here you have like what price is saying about the Bitcoin. Crypto news, daily forex streets, and what people are like. What is the global sentiment of the market about the Bitcoin? As you can see, a few days ago that was quite positive, but when you wake up in the morning and you see that the price is negative, just take off your investment. That's not like a very advanced tool, that's just like a small tool that I wanted to give you, because I found that interesting to always have that in the trading arsenal. And yeah, and if you have any feedback about my videos, about my presentation, feel free. Yeah, you're gonna have like a link below the video where you can just download it, and you're gonna be able to have it for you at home and play with it. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you soon. The next video gonna be, I'm gonna try to build a trading robot for you and give you all the steps one by one on how to build it, give you more details, but that's a very, very long video to build. That's already a few months that I'm on it, and yeah, that's just requiring me so much time, and I have like other freelance mission outside of YouTube videos for some different bank and fund and traders and individuals who want me to build tools for them. That means for me it's like a little bit hectic to build YouTube videos, but I'm gonna do my best to have one video per day by the end of the month. Okay guys, and I'm gonna also give you the link to give you much more details about the coding part below the video as well. Okay guys, I hope you enjoy this video, and see you soon.